Have you ever been watching a pro athlete and just thought, how on earth is that humanly possible? You know, that tennis return that seems to defy the laws of physics, or that interception that looks like it came out of nowhere. It really does look like a superpower, right? A sixth sense? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a fascinating science of perception and prediction, and it all starts with a simple math problem that doesn't seem to add up. Okay, so here's the puzzle. A professional tennis serve can travel the length of the court in about 4/10 of a second. But the average human reaction time, that's the time it takes for your brain to see something, process it, and send a signal to your muscles to move, is about half a second. So the math just doesn't work. The ball literally gets there before a normal person could even decide to swing. So if you can't physically react in time, what's going on? How do players like Novak Djokovic or Iga Swiatek return a serve that's flying at 130 miles per hour, and not just get the racket on it, but place it perfectly for a winning shot? What are they seeing that the rest of us are completely missing? Well, here's the secret. It turns out it has almost nothing to do with having superhuman reflexes. Elite athletes aren't just faster versions of you and me. Their brains are running a completely different playbook. And it all comes down to this one crucial point. They aren't reacting at all. They're anticipating. They don't wait for the ball to be halfway across the net to figure out what to do. By the time their opponent's racket even makes contact with the ball, the elite player is already moving. In a way, they're playing in the future. So how do they do that? How do they predict the future? Well, the first step is becoming an expert at reading their opponent's mind by reading their body. The key to this is a concept called kinematic cues. Honestly, the best way to think about them is like tells in a poker game, but for the entire human body. These are all the subtle little shifts, the angle of the shoulders, the turn of the hips, the way they grip the racket, tiny, almost invisible movements that give away the entire plot before the final scene even happens. And experts train their brains to read this secret language of motion. So if we go back to our tennis example, a pro isn't just watching the ball. No way. They're observing the entire windup. They're seeing how high the ball is tossed. They're clocking the rotation of the server's body. They're identifying the precise angle of the arm and the racket face. All of these little cues combine into this one lightning-fast prediction. Okay, that serve is going wide with a slice. And boom, they're already moving to that spot before the ball has even crossed the net. But it gets even deeper. It's not just about reading body language in the moment. Elite athletes are basically supercomputers running probability calculations. They're constantly factoring in the context. You know, what's the score? Is this a high-pressure point? Does this opponent have a habit of serving to the backhand when they're down? They combine all those physical cues with this massive database of game knowledge to make their prediction even more accurate. Okay, so anticipating when and what the opponent will do is half the battle. But the other half is about mastering the invisible geometry of the game itself. The strategic control of space. Think about any sport, soccer, basketball, tennis, you name it. At its heart, it's a battle for position. The absolute best players are masters of geometry. Their goal is always twofold: create open space for their own attack, while at the same time shutting down and denying any available space for their opponent. They don't just see a court, they see a dynamic, tactical grid. And this is incredibly deliberate. I mean, check out this data on where pro tennis players stand to return a serve. On the slower clay courts, they stand way back, about 2.5 meters behind the baseline. Why? To give themselves more time. But on the super fast grass courts, they creep up to just 1 meter back, trying to cut off the server's angles. It's a calculated decision about space, all to maximize their chances. And this is the crucial takeaway here. Where you stand directly changes what you can do next. Just one step to the left might open up a perfect forehand down the line, but it might close off a different shot. In short, your position on that grid dictates your possibilities. So how do athletes bring this all together? This anticipation of time and this control of space, well, it all culminates in this really beautiful concept from sports science called the perception-action loop. It's what allows them to seem like they're thinking and moving as one seamless unit. So when an elite athlete looks out at their field of play, they're just not seeing the same thing that we see. They aren't just seeing grass, lines, a net, or other players. They're perceiving something much, much deeper, something functional. They see what the environment affords them. This is a huge idea. That open patch of grass isn't just an empty space, it's an affordance for a through pass. The height of that incoming tennis ball isn't just a height, it's an affordance for an overhead smash. They perceive the world directly in terms of what they can do with it. There's this powerful idea that really just sums it all up perfectly.
For these athletes, perception is not for thinking, it is for doing. There's no long, slow decision-making step in the middle. To see the opportunity is to already be acting on it.
And this creates this amazing continuous feedback loop. What you perceive guides your action. That action, even just a tiny step, changes your position on the court, which instantly changes what you perceive next. And that in turn informs your next action. It's this constant fluid dance between seeing and doing, see, do, happening faster than conscious thought.
So, what have we learned here? We've basically learned that this athletic sixth sense isn't some gift from the heavens. It's a skill. It's a whole set of highly practiced mental abilities that we can actually break down and understand.
So here's the recipe for genius, right? First, you train your brain to anticipate by reading those tiny kinematic cues. Second, you add all those layers of context, the score, your opponent's habits, the patterns of the game. Third, you become a master of the game's geometry, controlling space to create opportunities. And finally, you fuse it all together in that constant fluid perception-action loop.
And you know, that's probably the most amazing part of all of this. This incredible ability isn't some innate talent someone is just born with. It is a form of intelligence that is built, piece by piece, through thousands of hours of focused, relentless practice. It's about literally training your brain to see the world not just for what it is, but for what you can do with it. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. This whole idea of seeing the world in terms of possibilities, it isn't just for a tennis court. It applies to a chessboard, a business negotiation, even a creative project. So the question is, what are the subtle cues, the hidden patterns, and the affordances for action that are sitting right there in front of you, just waiting to be discovered?